We are live on Twitch. Welcome to Basement Movie Room. This is our podcast recording for House of the Dragon, Episode 5, which you can hear in the background. Copyright strike. See you later, Twitch.
My bad.
All right. So
put it on my tab.
Yeah, I just did. So we are back for Episode 5, House of the Dragon, like I just said. We'll be recording other podcasts after this, Rings of Power, and maybe a little movie podcast if we have time, because I'm on a limited time budget tonight. In any case, House of the Dragon Episode 5, we're a couple days late. Sorry about that. That's Jared's fault.
Yeah.
No, it's not. It's
really wanted to soak it in.
So we both just recently, I guess you guys watched it last night?
Yeah.
And I watched it last night as well, because we were late on watching it. So, all right, so let's get down to the episode. Let's just, first thoughts. What were your thoughts on the episode as a whole?
My favorite, by far.
Your favorite?
My favorite thus far.
It's good, yeah.
It's a really, really good episode, and it entwines so much. It leaves you questioning. It leaves you on the edge of your seat. There's just so much that transpires in this entire episode that I feel like for me, again, somebody that's not in the background with things, especially with like the Lord of the Rings and all of that, that
all the lore or the books and all that.
Yeah, I didn't read any of the books and all the lords, I guess. So it just, for me, it definitely was a favorite.
Yeah. Not my favorite, but I mean it's up there. It's hard to pick a favorite right now because they're all so good. But it was definitely up there with one of the better episodes for sure.
Oh yeah,
and very reminiscent of Game of Thrones. A lot of kind of callbacks to that, I think. So it was kind of.
Game of
it's kind of nice.
Not Lord of the Rings.
Yeah,
Game of
it's
Thrones,
okay. You're
sorry.
fine.
It's okay. Silmarillion.
You just really made a lot of people mad.
Sorry.
All one of our followers.
Dare you? Nobody's watching. Nobody knew it happened.
Yeah, it's okay.
Right. Yeah, so I thought it was a very good episode too. Probably not my favorite, but it's close. Number 3, I think, is my favorite. The third episode.
Yeah,
and then probably this one. Very good. So. All right, so let's get to the opening scene. So in the opening, we're introduced to a girl on a horse. We find out this is Royce, and which is Damon's wife.
Yes.
So we're introduced to Royce and Sir Gerald Royce as well, I believe, was there. We meet him later in the episode again and actually get his name. So Rhea is riding a horse. She rides by herself. She's out hunting, and she runs into a hooded figure who she proclaims, "Hello, husband," and it's Damon. Damon walks up to her. The horse is scared of Damon, and Damon ends up causing the horse to buck, throw her on the ground, fall on her, and breaks her neck. She's not dead. Damon assumed she was dead at first, but then he went up. She's not dead. He picks up a rock and assuming he finishes his job, which we do find out later, he did finish the job.
Yeah.
And that's the end of the scene.
Yeah.
So
that was I didn't really catch how he made her fall off the horse. It was really...
the horse was scared of him for some reason. I don't know. Maybe he smells like dragon.
He made some like little nod, almost like there was somebody else there with him. I don't know. It just didn't... I didn't really catch how that all happened and played out. But, I mean, it is what it is.
He calls her the bronze bitch at some point. I don't know if he does it there or later in the episode.
She brought that up,
Yeah, because she is from House Royce. If you remember in Game of Thrones, Royce was the guy who was in charge of Robin Aaron.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the Royces wore, in the books, I think they wore bronze armor, and that's why he called her that.
Yeah, okay.
So, Ashley, anything to add to that scene?
That was kind of an aha scene for me. Like, oh, that's the wife. Because they speak of her, but you haven't met her yet.
All of 60 seconds with her.
So it was kind of like an aha, and then it makes you wonder, like, why we hadn't seen her, why he was keeping her hidden in the shadows almost. So.
Yeah. So she's dead. It was a quick appearance and goodbye to her. We've got a sneaker in the background.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a good paycheck for her.
Yeah. She is gone.
Yeah.
She had her moment in the House of the Dragon and is gone. So that's the end of that scene. The next scene, we move on to Viserys on a ship with Lionel Strong, who is his new hand, where we see the Hand of the King medallion on him, and Renera are all on the ship. It's heading towards Driftmark. In case you don't recognize it, Driftmark is the big castle on top of the hill, and that's the seat of Corlys Valerian's family, Rhaenys Valerian. And they land at Driftmark, and during the ship ride, Viserys is getting very sick, seasick, and he seems in worse health. He's looking terrible.
Oh, gosh.
Looking absolutely terrible.
This whole episode, he's just sick.
Yeah.
And you feel sick.
Yeah. So they land at Driftmark, and then that's the end of that scene. Not really much to that scene. I don't know if there's much to talk about other than how terrible Viserys looks and just sickly.
We got Strong as the Hand of the King.
That's right. He was given the good advice.
That was pretty obvious.
Yeah.
Obviously that was going to happen.
Had to be the choice.
Yeah. So
he gave all the good advice. He gave advice to what they're doing in going to Driftmark, and that marrying Renera off to Lenor Valerian. And so
keeping the peace.
Yeah.
Trying to make everybody happy.
Right.
Which might come and bite him. Bite him in the butt in the end. So we'll see.
We will see. Yep. So that's the end of that scene. There's really not much else to talk about there unless you guys have something else. So the next scene, I think, is a pretty good scene. It's Otto and Alicent at the at King's Landing. Otto is leaving, and I wrote in my notes that Otto is dropping some truth bombs. So Otto and Alicent are having a talk, and essentially Otto is telling Alicent, how do you think this is going to work when Viserys dies, whenever he dies, could be weeks, could be months, could be years. How do you think it's going to work? Do you think Renera is going to let your children live? And that's when Alicent kind of realizes that, no, she's definitely not. She's going to kill me and the children because she doesn't want to have any challenge to be able to take the throne from her. Because Renera's not stupid. Renera's going to know that many men in the kingdom are going to want Aegon. They want Aegon too to be the king. And so Otto is telling her that, and Alicent is somewhat trying to fight back against it, but, in her eyes, she knows it's true. She's no doubt.
She doesn't want it. She doesn't want it to be true, but yeah, she's starting to grow up in a sense, mature with that type of game being played. I mean, she's really starting to understand the logistics of everything. I guess.
Game of Thrones.
The Game of Thrones. I'm trying to stay away from that, but yeah. So, anything?
Agreed.
Yeah. and back to Otto, they kind of make him out to be the villain in the show, but his reasoning, his thinking he thinks is right for the realm, and that always makes a good character, not just character, but like villain,
right?
Because who's to say that he's not right?
Yeah.
He's not. And he has his own aspirations, and he's looking out for his family, but at the same time, like you said, he's speaking a lot of truths.
Yeah.
So
he's dropping the truth
and
bombs.
He's not just your typical villain, if he's a villain at all.
I mean, he's a schemer.
Yeah.
But he's not a Littlefinger type schemer, and you're not going to know who that is because he's from Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Littlefinger in Game of Thrones would burn the country down just to be king of the ashes. They say that.
Yeah.
Otto's not that way. Otto's looking out for the best of the people, but he also wants his family in power. And I don't think it's just him. I mean, they had that in last episode. His brother, who's the head of House Hightower, was pushing him to say, Aegon needs to be king. Aegon needs to be king. So it's not just Otto sitting there and doing that.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, everybody is schemers in this.
And everybody's going to be at fault for what's to come, honestly.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to be without fault.
And if you're completely honest and a good person in this universe, you're not going to last long. So, That's just how it is. It's full of villains.
Yeah, it is. It is. And so that's it with Otto. Otto leaves. Alicent kind of is having a change of heart in regards to things, which will come even more so later in the episode when she finds out some information. Mm-hmm. But the next scene is a very short scene with the carriage ride with Renera and Viserys riding into Driftmark. There's really not much to this scene. They get to Driftmark. Lenor's there, like having a battle with his friend, this guy who we find out's name is Joffrey Loudermouth. Joffrey, yeah. Not a great name in the series. His name is Joffrey Loudermouth or something like that. I think I wrote it down later in the notes. So Corlys does not greet the king here, which the king takes a little bit as a slight, and Lionel's like, why is why is Lord Valerian not here to greet his king? And they say, oh, he just got back from the Stepstones.
He's tired.
He's tired.
Yeah. And he's sitting on the throne.
So Lena ends up coming out to greet the king. Mm-hmm. Of course, Lena, the 12/8-year-old that the king thought about marrying some years ago in the series, comes out to greet him. She's now promised to a Lord of Essos. She's supposed to marry a Lord of Essos. It hasn't happened yet, so she's still there. And she escorts Lionel and Viserys into Corlys' chamber. Surprisingly, they leave the Kingsguard at the door when he goes in there. I thought that was kind of interesting. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of maybe where that scene ends. I think I jumped
over her cousin. Or it's his cousin. And, they kind of let their guard down. Yeah.
So that scene kind of ends before he meets Corlys. And we go, did you guys have anything to say about that?
I thought it's funny how Renera and Lenora.
Lena.
Lena.
And then Lenor.
Lenor's her brother. Yeah. Lena. She aged so much faster than Renera. She really hasn't changed over the time jumps. And she
went from looking like an 8-year-old
we were both
to like a 20-year-old.
Yeah, how did that work? But it's
she's only supposed to be like it's probably been 4 years, so she's like 16. Yeah, she's like 16.
Yeah, she looks 20.
And that means Rhaenyra's 3 years, 15, 19, 20, somewhere in there.
So they look the same age now.
Because you can't recast like a 15, 16-year-old.
Right, yeah.
Because they're going to look the same for a few number of years, but you have to recast the 12-year-old.
Yeah, they're not going to recast Renera for sure.
Yeah.
Not yet.
Well, no, next episode.
Not yet.
We'll talk about that.
So,
all right. So, anything else about that scene?
No.
It's kind of just a little setup for the bigger scene that happens here shortly.
Well, the taking of the names.
Yeah, that's coming up.
Oh,
yeah, we haven't got
that's not that part.
No.
Okay.
No, it stops and it jumps back to King's Landing with Alicent and Godswood. Okay. And she's in the Godswood just hanging out, and she runs into Larys Strong. By chance, let's make no mistake that the Strongs are playing a game now.
Oh, yeah.
Larys especially, because he seems to be the smartest of the bunch, honestly. Mm-hmm. He's got the club leg, but he got the big brain. So she runs into Larys Strong. He informs Alicent that a tea was delivered very, very sneakily, he informs her. He says, oh, is Princess Renera okay now? I saw that the Maester was delivering a tea to her room the other night. So basically, I don't know if Lionel Strong's putting him up to this or if Larys is doing this on his own. But my inclination is that Lionel is now playing his own game to get his family in better position, despite the fact he's never tried to do that like Otto did.
Yeah, it's just that temptation from being a hand, I guess.
Yeah, you got more power.
Yeah.
What is it? Absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Yeah, that's it. And Otto brought up he said a line like that in one of the first episodes too.
Yeah. So that's that scene. It's kind of sneaky. Larys is very sneaky there. He's very smart. You can tell he's very smart. And like earlier in the tent scene on the hunt, you could tell Larys hung out around the ladies.
All the gossip.
Because he knew where the gossip was at. Yep. Larys is smart enough to know that the gossip is probably true, and the ladies know the gossip. The men are going to gossip. They're going to sit around and talk about whores and beer, basically,
Arr.
So Larys is very smart.
You want to talk about whores and beer? On the next podcast, okay.
Next podcast coming up: whores and beer.
Whores and beer.
I'll sit that one out.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
All right. So not much else to say about that scene. We do jump back to Driftmark, and we are with the meeting between Viserys and Corlys Valerian. Viserys is informed by Corlys of the death of Rhea, Damon's wife. He didn't know this till now. Not sure how Corlys knew it at this point.
Yeah, that kind of.
He's traveled fast for him, but I guess he was not there, so he was out on the seas. Maybe a ship came through and told him. I don't know. I don't remember if he said how he found out. And Viserys is kind of like, oh, well, that brings some interesting things. And I think Viserys is pretty sure what happened there.
He figured that out right away.
He's pretty sure what happened there. And that's where Viserys brings up the proposal of marriage of Raniera to Lenor. And they go into the conversation you started to talk about, and you can talk about that conversation of the last name of the children of the relationship.
Yeah, so they could have their last name until Valerian until the heir takes the throne, and then they have to transition to Targaryen.
Yeah,
which
right.
I thought was very interesting.
Yeah, it was kind of a little
I
like
understand that part.
He's basically saying my family name is going to keep going on the throne.
Yeah,
you guys can have your name until.
And you can have your name for all the other kids.
Until the power.
Who's to say that they have an heir? What if they don't have an heir?
Then a family member that's a Targaryen takes the throne at that point.
Yeah. Then you go in that whole line of succession.
Damon would have seemingly had kids.
That part, 100% threw me for a loop.
Yeah. I thought that was interesting.
I think they should have just suggested a nice hyphenation and be done with it.
Yeah. In today's world, you could do that, right?
Yeah.
That's right. It's Valerian Targaryen.
No,
that rhymes too. That sounds great. Targaryen Valerian.
They're allowing them to have
Name
name for
Valerian Targaryen Valerian.
Yeah.
No, they're allowing them to have that name for a small period of time, and then saying, okay, once they have an heir that comes forth or comes to, then we go back to the Targaryen.
It's a power play,
which I get. So that's just a ploy to get them into the marriage.
Yeah, kind of appease them.
Accept it.
Kind of appease them because I mean,
and Corlys seems happy with it.
Yeah,
he's like, this is a fair compromise.
This is the closest that he's other than his wife almost getting.
I mean, his wife's a Targaryen.
Yeah,
so it's like. He's willing
related.
To accept it.
They're related by marriage. So.
Yeah. He's willing to accept it to place his family line on the throne, knowing that at some point, if they're the king or the queen, they can change their name back if they want to.
Yeah.
So they can do whatever they want.
They got their foot in the door at that point, and anything can happen.
Yep.
So, yeah, that was a really...
It got tense there for a second, though. I thought it was going to fall apart, but then it's like, this is a fair compromise.
All right, well... High fives.
Well, all right.
Well, see you later.
Yeah, well, see you later. Big gulps, huh?
All right. So the next scene is Lenor and Renera on the beach discussing their match. We discover that Lenor is gay and has a boyfriend. They agree between themselves to do what needs to be done. Lenor gets the sense that Renera has somebody else as well. Yeah. And that they will basically produce an heir, and then they can do whatever they want.
Yeah.
So Lenor can have his boy, and she can have her boy, basically. So they come to that agreement, and they're happy. They don't really care otherwise. And that's the end of that scene. Not really much else on that scene.
No.
Just a quick scene between them two. It's a good scene, though. I mean, it's a nice scene between those two. Renera being very accepting of the situation.
They're like, hey,
here's the situation. Are you good?
Yeah.
Hey, here's the situation. Are you good?
This is our one play to get in there and be in power.
Yeah.
Let's make it work.
It makes all kinds of sense. Yeah. It's a marriage of convenience. It's not a marriage of love. They don't.
And that's all throughout history, So.
No. So the next scene is kind of like a continuation of this scene with Corlys and Rhaenys, his wife, discussing Lenor because they know he's gay.
Yeah.
They clearly know he's gay.
Yeah, that's where they...
And Corlys, being the typical, Southern dad, he'll get over it.
He'll get over it. It's a phase.
It's just a youth thing. It's a phase. Yeah, that's... he must be a Baptist or something. Oh, sorry, Baptist. I didn't mean to... I don't think anybody's listening that cares. But, Corlys says he'll get over it, and they're discussing the heirship issue and the worries from Rhaenys on what will happen to Lenor in the kingdom because of what's going on there. It's like the opposite of the Otto speech coming from Rhaenys, because she's worried about Lenor, like worried about the High Towers taking down like Lenor and Renera. So it's that worry coming out.
Everybody is just forming alliances constantly with, that's what's starting to form here.
Yeah.
So
the noise, it's fine.
The kingdom is starting to divide slowly.
Yeah. Oh, it's no doubt starting to divide. And Corlys and Rhaenys, I mean, their worries are well founded, just like Otto's were well founded. I mean, I don't have any doubts of that worry.
Yeah.
So,
and I love me some Otto. So I'm not giving up on Otto yet.
Yeah. He's gonna make a comeback.
Olé,
he is.
Olé. Yeah. All right. So
cheers, bitch.
So the next scene after that, if you guys don't have anything else on that scene, Ashley, anything on that scene? No.
I'm good.
Okay. Is Lenor with his boyfriend, Joffrey Loudermouth?
That's my cup maiden.
Cupbearer.
Cupbearer.
Yeah, Lenor and his boyfriend discussing the situation. We don't have his name yet, but I'm looking down to try to see exactly what his name is because I know it.
I'm sorry.
Lenor's boyfriend.
Joffrey.
That's
Joffrey.
Last name. Lonmouth, I think is what it is.
Loudmouth.
Loudmouth. He learns that lesson.
Yep.
So they're just discussing the situation, and
which I don't think he was. I think they threw him in the show. I'm pretty sure he wasn't.
Well, he was probably a mushroom. He was a mushroom part. A lot of mushroom in this episode.
And he was.
Okay,
that was
from the
confirmed.
book. Sorry,
this
is book. No, it wasn't.
I thought it was confirmed.
No,
it's not.
It's like supposed.
I thought I saw.
Maybe it's a mushroom sighting.
Oh,
but mushroom. So the book this is based on, actually you have no basis, but we've listened to the audio book. There's an account of all this is written by a guy named Maester somebody wrote this account. He used accounts from multiple people to put this all together because the history's not clear on what actually happened. So there were a few different people. There was the Maester who was in the castle at the time, who we see multiple times doing medicine in the moon tea. Yeah. And there's Mushroom is one of them. And he's a dwarf that was like the court jester. We really haven't seen him unless that was him in this episode.
That's got it.
And his stories are always very sexually explicit and super violent.
Oh, yeah.
So some of the stuff in this episode is clearly mushroom stories.
We have a couple friends that are like that.
This is kind of confirmation.
Yeah, they can't tell a story without it being like that.
Yeah,
so.
It happens.
I think everybody's got friends like that.
Are they also short?
Well, they're not tall.
So mushroom stories have become canon at this point because this show is the canon according to George Martin. He is there. He's part of the writing of it. He's canonized it. So
good.
Mushroom stories are clearly at play. So there, Lenor and his boyfriend are discussing the situation, and Raniera's paramour. He refers to him as the paramour. Who could it be? He wants to figure out who it is, which he does, unfortunately for him. So that's it with that scene. Anything else on that scene? No. All right. So the next scene is one of the stronger scenes in the episode, in my opinion. Probably one of the most emotional scenes, and that's Renera and Crispin on the ship.
Which I noticed. One of the editors' name is Crispin. Just a little shout out to the editor.
So Kristen comes to talk to Renera and says, you don't have to marry Lenor. There's a second path for you. You can run away with me. And she essentially shuts that down, says, no, I'm going to be queen. I'm not going to run away with you and be nobody in Essos. We can still be together, but I have to marry Lenor and be the queen.
Yeah.
She basically breaks his heart.
Yeah.
He's in love with her. He's very shamed by his actions. He's like, I worked hard to become what I am, and I shamed myself, and now you're doing this. It feels terrible to him. So that's that scene. He leaves away from her, and she's like, "Oh, don't go," that kind of stuff. But, you get the feeling that she's a little bit heartless.
She's a bit of a player.
Yeah. She doesn't have much care.
She wants that hot D.
I can't with you.
I had to.
I disagree in a slight smidgen because you see it in her face. You see it in her face as he's talking about the life that they could have, and you can see it all over her face that that's essentially what she wants. Like she does want that life. And then you can see the emotion leave her face of happiness, and even like her shoulders like drop. And she takes that stature to where like her shoulders go back. She goes from being like very like, yes. And then her shoulders like come back and she goes into like the queen stature. And she's like, this cannot happen. I'm going to be queen. I'm going to do this for the country or whatever it's called. And it's very much so a woman emotion. Like, yes, I'm in the moment. I want this life. And then it comes over her that this isn't what I was chosen to do.
This can't work because
it cannot happen
of the statures.
Right. Yeah. So yes, she is heartless in the end, but essentially is that what she does truly want? Yes.
And with Crispin, he's such like he's so big into honor and everything. This is his first big gig, and he botched it terribly. So I mean, how much is he really about honor? And
yeah. Well, no, you say he botched it, but
did he though?
Was he in a position to say no? He's
true.
Her protector. He has to listen to what she orders.
So in that sense, yeah.
Is he in a position to say no? No, this is something I heard other people discuss. Bald Move discussed it. Was he in a position to say no? They were like, this is not like so far as like a kind of like rape or anything, but it's definitely a power dynamic issue there.
What would have happened? What would have transpired if he had said no?
Yeah.
Maybe it could have been.
We don't know because he didn't.
She might have. Yeah. He didn't know how'd she react to that? She might have had him killed.
Right.
Yeah, true. It could have went either way. But
all right, so the next scene's very short. Viserys returns to King's Landing, gets out of the wagon, and passes out. End of the scene. Not much to talk about there. He's obviously sick.
Yeah.
The next scene, Kristen is summoned by the Queen.
Who?
Kristen. You're welcome. He's summoned by the Queen. He goes to meet with her. She has some questions about the night Renera returned from the outs with Damon. Kristen's not a great liar, nor is he great at realizing that they're not talking about him, because he just gives up the goat right here. He's basically like, yep, we did it. I feel terrible about it. He didn't realize he wasn't being accused. She was just trying to get information because he's the closest one there. He just gives it up. He asked for death. He says, I don't want to be tortured and like gelded for this crime. Can you just give me death? And she's just like, you can go.
Yeah.
She's man. It's like, man, he has this reaction later in the episode too. It's just like, like he's freaking samurai who's failed his master.
Yeah, settle down there.
Yeah, simmer down, man. Simmer down. You're okay. You can go. And that's the end of it. I just thought it was very interesting that he did not read that room. He did not read that room at all and realized that she's asking if Renera slept with Damon, not that she slept with him. Right. I guess maybe he doesn't actually know that story, though.
Didn't hear all the rumors?
Maybe not, because he's always with her. Nobody's talking about it in front of her except for Sarah, and he's not in the room.
Yeah. True.
So I guess he just didn't know. And the moon tea, I mean, that was just delivered. He's not going to ask questions about that. He's a good soldier. Yeah, it's just like he's soldier. Like, just kill me. Yeah, and she's like, nah, bro, go ahead and leave.
Okay, well,
and then but in doing that, she's developing an ally as well. Oh, yeah. She realizes that she has somebody under her thumb. Or
he is definitely a pawn.
Yeah.
To be used.
He doesn't realize it, but he's a pawn.
He's a big pawn to be used in this
Game
of Thrones.
I think one of the reasons he came out with it so quickly, though, is A, because he feels guilty, and B, one of the things that we didn't mention about the last scene was, as Ranier wanted that lifestyle that he offered to her that she turned down, she essentially counteroffered and said, I can live the life of the queen and we can still have our life too.
I can have you on the side.
And basically said, you can, and he was like, I can be your whore. Like, what do you want of me?
Right.
And I think that kind of like set him off into a spiral where he was completely agitated and turned off by that entire situation, to where he would offer her something of love and loyalty, and that she would choose that, but still kind of offer that on the back end. And I think that kind of weighed on him. So then when the queen called him in and asked him all that, he was like, I'm just going to come out with it. It is what it is. I put my heart out. I offered everything that I have to give, and she rejected me, except wanting me on the side. And that was like his last hurrah of
last ditch effort to
clear his name.
Yeah.
Because he felt
he cleared
bottom of the barrel.
No, he cleared
it. He cleared it right out, but he cleared it to the right person.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So next scene is Viserys and the Maester. And Viserys is looking very terrible. His arm is a disaster. It's like scarred all the way up to at least where his sleeve
was
is.
it scarred or was it wax?
Did
we
they
thought
have
it was wax on it?
No, I think it's just really, really messed up.
Just messed up.
I think it's messed up.
Maybe it was bad. Maybe it was bad.
I mean, we don't see him using that arm, and somebody grabs the arm at some point, and he winces. So I think it's
so. It is probably
it's just messed up.
Okay.
I think his fingers are spreading up his arm. He's got
because they were putting leeches on
green or something. Man.
They were putting leeches.
Yeah,
on
yeah. They're relieving it that way. Lionel's there as well. Viserys. This is kind of an interesting thing from earlier.
Yeah, he's starting like crap eater.
Crap eater.
Yeah.
So Viserys, it kind of starts talking a little out of his mind a little bit. I don't know if he's out of his mind, but he's just saying, I've really never been tested as a king. Was I a good king? I've never been tested as a king. There's been no wars or anything. And Lionel goes, well, doesn't that make you a good king?
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, but I wish I had been tested. He wished there was something that came. Nothing came up during his reign. Yeah. He's like, he's good, and he thinks he's about to die, I think, essentially. But
kind of
he's going to last a few more years.
Yeah.
But he's a peacetime king.
Yeah, he brought up that he kept Jaehaerys' legacy going.
Yeah.
Because Jaehaerys was peacetime.
Yeah, it was peace for a long time.
Yeah, so he kept that going, and to keep peace was, in its own right, pretty amazing feat. So. But he's looking rough. He's kind of talking a little bit like he thinks he's going to die, I think, but he's not dead. He survives through this scene at least. Man.
So, anything else about that scene?
No, just he's looking rough.
We're actually catching
each
up.
episode.
The show's playing on the TV right now. We're catching up with the scenes right now. We're almost to this scene that's on the TV. So the next scene is dragons flying. I think it's Lena and Lenor flying on the dragons coming into King's Landing. And ships from Driftmark are coming in for the royal wedding, assumingly. Yeah. It's a great scene. Amazing CGI. The ships look great. Everything looks great.
CGI in this is great.
Yeah, it's terrific. They actually gave them the budget for it. Or they're not lying.
They're using just enough. They're not overdoing it.
We can't afford to do a dire wolf. It's too expensive. Oh, yeah. That was an excuse in Game of Thrones. Why they didn't have dire wolves all the time. So that's all there is that scene. And then the next scene comes up where Renera, I thought it was hilarious. Her jab at Jason Lannister.
So funny.
I started laughing, and Carolyn's like, "What? She's like, what are you doing?" She's like, "Oh, you're laughing at the show." I was like, "Yeah, it makes sense if you saw an earlier episode." Yeah. Just hilarious, the jab at Jason Lannister. Yeah. And then Sir Gerald Royce of the Vale pays respects, and the Valerians arrive in the room. So this is basically just the introduction of a bunch of people. You see the Hightower lead. Otto's not there. We don't see Otto. Otto's not there, but his brother's there, who's the head of House Hightower. You see Gerald Royce. You see the Valerians arrive with
the Queen.
Oh man, the way
is not there though.
The way
Alicent has not arrived yet.
The way the Valerians arrived, they acted like we're in power. The way they strolled in. Yeah. I mean, Corlys came in with his crew.
Oh, yeah.
Sun in the middle. They were like, we own this place.
Yeah, they came right in. Because they will soon enough, because Lenor is going to be king consort at some point, right?
Yeah, so they're already starting to get a big head.
Yeah.
with
Well, they
power.
are. Yeah. They arrive and they're looking great, and they come up to the head table and have their seat at the head table.
Mm-hmm.
And the feast starts. Allison's not there though. They've started everything. Next person to show up is Damon. Damon shows up. He's been exiled. He's not really welcome. However, the king is not going to make the room quiet. The king's not going to make a show of this, though. He asks for a chair to be brought to the head table and allows Damon to sit at the head table on the other end from the Valerians and lets him sit there.
Yep.
And the speech starts from the king at that point. And Alicent, as you said, was not there. She walks in wearing green.
Yep.
Which is an important thing because red and black are Targaryen colors. She is wearing the Hightower colors of green. That's going to come into play later. I don't want to get spoilers or anything, but greens and blacks are very important in the future of this show. She interrupts the speech, wearing green, sits at the table beside Viserys. Viserys doesn't really say anything. He's not, I think, too fond of what's happened, but he's not going to make a scene. This is about his daughter. It's not about him. It's not about Damon. He's trying to just keep everybody happy. And then he finishes his speech.
Which, he gets interrupted constantly.
Yeah.
Not just that.
He does.
But like this whole episode.
Interrupting him.
And it's like, they're starting to, everybody around him is starting to be like, okay, this guy's almost out the door.
Yeah.
He has very little power. We're making our way in to this whole power play, and they're just kind of throwing him to the side like, okay, what? Yeah. Whatever. Get done with your little speech. But they're really disrespecting him as a king this episode, I thought.
He's losing.
Especially right here.
He's losing the respect.
Yeah.
He really is.
He's constantly getting interrupted and having to, I don't know, kind of... He's just kind of thrown to the side.
I don't think he reads the room all that well either.
Yeah.
Because
exactly.
One thing he says is this is going to be a second age of dragons in Westeros. Guess who doesn't like dragons? Most of Westeros, because they got conquered by dragons.
Right.
This is not a thing. They would all be fine if dragons went away. They don't like essentially one family having nuclear bombs.
Yeah.
Because the dragons are overpowered and they can take everybody out. He just doesn't read the room on that front.
Yeah, and everybody's he's losing power by the minute.
No, he is. And meanwhile, Damon's sitting on the table just smirking the whole time.
Oh,
having the best time of
his
life.
arrogance in this episode, or in this scene, is just, it's so funny. It's so fun to watch.
The scene has so much involved with it between, like you said, the way that the Valerians entered. It was very much a show of power. And then the way that Damon entered was, again, another show of power. And then the way that the Queen entered is a whole nother show of power. Like, everybody's trying to throw their weight around.
Yeah.
And the princess is like, can we just get this over with? Like, y'all are trying to make these statements on a day that I just want to get done with.
This is my wedding day.
So, like, the whole process of all of that. And I honestly, like... The Valerians was huge. Agreed 100%. Damon's was a shit show of character, but expected. But the Queen's was very unexpected for me. And it shouldn't have been, like everything that had transpired prior in the episode. But I think she's got a huge internal battle going with herself. Between her father, between her husband, between her... stepdaughter, best friend. I don't really know what to do. What's it called?
That's where it gets a little crazy.
So she's got like
a huge family here,
and then she's got to think about her kids on the back end of it. So I think she's going through a huge internal battle, and then she shows up in green, which I've come to learn is a huge thing.
Yeah.
So that statement for her,
and it threw
out the king. Like, you see him, like, stop and look at her, and he even, like, licks his lips and does, like, something really funny with his face, like, all right.
Like the Joker.
That is not an okay thing that you're doing at the moment, but I'm going to ignore it and try to move on. So that was very apparent for me.
Yeah. We also get some scenes of, like, Damon and Kristen Cole kind of seething at everything going on. Mm-hmm. Kristen is certainly seething. He's not fond of anything going on here, but he has to be here because of his work.
They're just taking in all the BS.
Next up is a dance between Renera and Lenor. Damon's just kind of sitting there with his smirk on still, this is some bullshit.
He's waiting for the shit show to go down.
No, he starts the shit show, essentially. So, Allison meets with her uncle from Old Town, and basically her uncle is taking over the airship, basically. Again, I mean, it's just another one of the things with the High Towers trying to seize power, essentially. So, then there's a lot going on in this scene. I don't even know how to...
So much.
Yeah, Gerald Royce...
It was
right there on the screen.
It was done so well, too.
Yeah, Gerald Royce comes up to Damon and says that men answer for their crimes in the Vale, and Damon brings up his inheritance of Runestone because his wife died childless, and that should be his now. And then he'll take it up with Lady Jane, I think is her name, the leader of the Vale. And Viserys overhears and seems a little unimpressed and angry about the whole conversation because he's pretty sure that Damon killed his wife, as is Gerald Royce. I think this is the time when he says bronze bitch. I can't remember if he says it earlier or now, but he says something about it again here.
I think he said, says it here.
So Gerald Royce is kind of taken aback by Damon's thing about Runestone, because who would have thought Damon would try to take Runestone from the Royces? And that's where that conversation ends.
But didn't he give him certain lands or whatever in that conversation? He was like, you can have this, whatever, blah, blah.
Well, yeah, but that was just the king saying you have your lands, Runestone. Why?
Because Royce seemed like he was like, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't think Royce wants him to have it.
I'm kind of cool with that.
I don't think Royce wants him to have it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the end of that.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I thought he was giving Royce
Runestone?
Yeah.
Oh, no. He said he's going to take it to...
No, extra lands.
Oh, I don't know.
To accommodate the loss or something. I thought there was something.
Yeah, I don't remember
because
if there was.
Because he was so worried about, his cousin? Sister?
Royce?
Yeah.
I think it's his sister.
Sister, okay. But
he
was so worried about her, and then he got something out of it, and he kind of backed off. I thought there was something involved.
Yeah,
in the
I don't recall that.
I don't
either.
Ben. So, somebody watch us.
So Damon, after this, hops up and approaches Lena, which is actually we're right on line with what's happening on the screen right now.
Step for step. It's pretty great.
So you had seen Lena looking across the table at him earlier and kind of making eyes at him and things like that. So they have a little conversation while dancing. I don't really remember what they talked about.
Wig looks a little better on her.
Yeah, she's looking okay with the wig. And then Lenor and his boyfriend are discussing Kristen Cole being Rhaenyra's lover. The boyfriend says he's pretty sure and that, he knows the secrets of this.
Yeah.
And
which was pretty interesting how he figured that out so quick.
Yeah, he's real quick on it.
Yeah,
he's very, very.
I think they just kind of pushed that forward.
Yeah, they didn't have time to play that part of it, so they just kind of pushed it forward. And then the boyfriend Joffrey Lonmouth is what I wrote down here. Tells Kristen, he talks to Kristen and says they're both deeply invested in the Union and that the secrets will keep them safe. Basically, that they can use their secrets for power.
Yeah,
essentially
trying to form an alliance.
Yeah.
So,
meanwhile, Damon approaches Renera. They're talking in Old Valerian as they usually do, and they kind of are prodding each other over things. They're kind of insulting each other back and forth. It's kind of more flirting than it is anything, to be honest. And then as they're talking, Viserys is trying to get a view of what's going on. He thinks they're about to kiss. He doesn't see it though. And then that's when Kristen attacks Joffrey.
Yeah, we don't see what happens.
Yeah, that's when he approaches him and reveals.
You just see him
his
talking.
Knowings, though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's not just the fight doesn't just break out. It's he basically outs it.
Yeah.
He outs the secret.
Yeah. And Kristen begins attacking on there's a big scrum. Harwin Breakbones grabs Renera to get her away.
What a great name.
Yeah. Harwin Breakbones.
Breakbones.
That's Lionel Strong's kid, too.
Yeah.
Harwin Strong.
He's supposed to be the strongest.
He's the big guy.
Yeah,
He's the big man.
One of the strongest men.
He saves Renera from that area, and obviously Lionel is wanting him to gain more favor. Mm-hmm. So Breakbones brings her out of there, brings her away from it. Kristen kills Joffrey Lonmouth in a very, very, very rough way. Punches him to death.
Yeah.
And breaks his face open. I mean, this is like back to the Mountain versus the Red Viper deal, which you haven't seen.
Oh God,
yeah. But there's a head explosion.
Gruesome though.
Yeah. So
Very
Kristen kills him,
that.
and Kristen kind of gets up, looks down at what he's done. I don't think he actually meant to kill him, to be honest. I think he just meant to give him a lesson.
Yeah.
And he just got a little
His rage,
too crazy in it.
Rage took over.
And Kristen leaves and goes to the Godswood. Lenor and Ray are married right there in that chamber that night. There's blood on the ground. A rat's coming over to lick the blood up. That's foreshadowing for some characters that'll come in later in the story, probably season 3, 4, somewhere in there.
Season 3, 4.
Oh, there's gonna be 5.
Yeah.
I think 5.
5 seasons is what they're planning on. So she's getting married. Lenor and her are married. We go to Kristen and we can stop there because the next scene actually is different because all this is going on all at the same time within 10 minutes of each other. All that. So did you guys have anything to say about any of that? Because it's all wild.
Just how well done this scene is with everything going on, all the little, chess pieces being placed. Just, little conversations here and there and all these little alliances trying to be formed that don't work out. And, there's so much going on, but you understand everything that's going on. No. You're not lost at all in this scene. And it's probably my favorite scene so far throughout all the episodes. Yeah. So
reminds me of that scene in The Witcher where they had the party and
it does feel like that. Yeah,
with Dooney.
It does.
Yeah. So we're at the fight scene on the screen right now.
Well, it brings about so many questions. For me, again, a lot of this is kind of way fresh and new, so there's so many questions that happen with this. What is Damon's take on going after having the encounter with the sister
Lena? He's gonna marry her.
So you have that, and then he turns around and then has this encounter with Renera, and he kind of prods her a little bit, and then she even turns around and tells him, well, I'm not married yet. You can go through the Kingsman away, and you can take me to be your wife. And then that's when kind of the fight breaks out, and then it also cuts back to where you wonder why... I'm on Crispin, dang it. Why Crispin is standing there and why the boyfriend is... Joffrey while he's revealing his secrets that could have been used in power, could have been used to help them in the long run, why he would out that to Crispin. They talked about it and they were like, this is good, we need this is going to be good for us in the long run. And then he turns around and outs that. So that kind of left a question in my mind. So all of this taking place, and then Crispin clearly beats him to death.
I think that conversation between Joffrey and Crispin was intentionally left out. There was something else going on there that Joffrey set Crispin off to where he went into that rage on him.
Oh, 100%.
So, but they left that out because, their conversation was almost like forming an alliance on one end.
Right.
And then Crispin it was a total emotional rage that he went into.
He went off the deep end.
We don't know what was said, but obviously it was not good for Joffrey.
There was a lot.
Joffrey Loudmouth.
There was a lot involved with that scene.
Loudmouth.
And it leaves you very open-ended on a lot of forefronts.
Yeah. Great scene.
Excellent scene.
So the next scene is Crispin in the God's Wood. He sits there, takes off his armor, and is about to commit seppuku. He's about to kill himself when there's a voice that comes across that says, "Don't do it." It's Alicent. She's now created the ultimate ally. Mm-hmm. Essentially, he's going to be with her from now on. Is the thing you get. So yeah, that's kind of that scene. It's mixed in with the marriage of Lenor and Renera, which I don't think the marriage was supposed to happen right then. I think they did it because of all the trouble. They were supposed to have 7 days of tournaments.
They just went ahead and
7 days of tournaments and feasting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Kristen is about to kill himself. He's saved by Alicent. And then you get the last scene after the wedding is over of Viserys passing out again. Yeah. His sickness is obviously progressing to where he can't stand up.
I'm sorry. Anymore. Joffrey was a character because Crispin, now that you brought up the tournament, Crispin and Joffrey fought in the tournament. That's where Kristen that's where he killed him.
Is that where it was?
Yeah. Okay. Instead of at the wedding. Okay.
Yeah, they took some liberties there.
I just went back to get a refresher on today. So
all right.
Starting to remember some stuff.
So that is the end of the episode. Any other thoughts or anything like that?
No, I mean,
so much.
The wedding scene, of course, is very sort of reminiscent of, Game of Thrones.
Well, we can't have a normal wedding.
We can't talk about.
Yeah,
we can't talk about. She hasn't seen it yet, so
weddings are wild and
weddings are wild. So
a little alliterative.
It definitely, once again, the show feels like Game of Thrones. It's constantly bringing you back to that universe, and they're doing a great job with it. So, I mean, this show it's rocking right now.
I ended jaw dropped. It's like the best way I can describe it.
Yeah, we got done with the episode last night, and you're like, "That's my favorite one."
I did
by far,
100%. It was. There was just so much involved with it, and it brought so much to light and left so many questions that leaves me wanting more. So yeah, 100% was my favorite episode. I loved everything that was brought to light. I can't wait for everything that's going to come.
Yep.
So.
Oh, there's a lot.
So much.
Yeah, much to come. Much to come.
Yep.
All right. So thanks for listening to the Basement Movie Room podcast on House of the Dragon, episode 5. We will be back hopefully Sunday this time to review and talk about House of the Dragon episode 6, where we're going to have a time jump, it seems. Although if you've followed any news, you know that we're jumping 10 years. So at this point, we will hop off for the podcast. If you were watching on Twitch, twitch.tv/Basement Movie Room, we appreciate it. We're going to run into the Rings of Power review now. Ashley will be leaving us since she does not watch Rings of Power. And
thanks for having me.
Yeah. Thanks for coming again, Ashley. And we will see you guys next time.
Yes. Thanks. Cheers.